Marvel's Spider-Man 2 Kraven was just perfectly done. You see, Kraven is the best hunter in the world, but in this version that Insomniac created, Kraven is sick and he's probably going to die because of his sickness. But Kraven doesn't want to spend the last of his days lying in a bed waiting to die. So he is in search for his final hunt, in which he will die by the hands of an equal. And this goal of his is perfect for two reasons. The first one is that it makes perfect sense for the character Kraven. And the second one is that this sets up the scary and surprising story that we got where Kraven is hunting down the superpowered people from Spider-Man's universe. At first, Spider-Man believes that Kraven is kidnapping villains because he's trying to use them for a plan or something like that. But after invading one of Kraven's bases, he discovers that his goal is not use them, but instead to hunt them. And the moment when we find that out is just so epic because we can see as Spider-Man Kraven's notes on how to defeat Scorpion. And then we get to a video of Kraven actually hunting Scorpion. And this is when everything starts to get much heavier because we can see Kraven killing Scorpion. For Kraven, it's either kill or be killed in a hunt. So when Spider-Man looks at that video and he sees all the other superpowered people that Kraven has in his list, he knows that all of them are in serious danger. So the tone of the game gets a lot more serious. And that continues later when we see as MJ notes and recordings of Kraven describing how he killed Vulture and Shocker. We had encounters with those villains before in Marvel Spider-Man the first game, and when I saw they died here in 2, I was like, really? I'm not gonna get a chance to fight them again. For a moment, I kind of missed them, you know? And the more villains I saw that Kraven was capable of killing, the scarier I got because, let's face it, these guys are no joke. But that fear and feeling that Kraven was such a big menace in Marvel Spider-Man 2 got to its peak shortly after when he was able to hold a punch from Spider-Man and stab him. He was strong enough to hold a punch from Spider-Man, fast enough to stab him before he could even realize it, and then he breaks the knife inside of his body. When I saw that, I screamed so loud, I was in shock, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know what was good. I simply didn't know. When I think of that moment, I just believe that I feel exactly like Spider-Man felt there. Spider-Man was beating down the hunters, and you know that in fights against regular humans, Spider-Man always holds back and pulls his punches because he doesn't want to kill people. So when he went to strike Kraven, he probably expected that he was a regular human, of course a great hunter, but still with regular human strength and abilities. But when his punch got stopped by Kraven, he was probably surprised because of that, but at the same time, before he could realize that Kraven hold his punch, he was already stabbed. So, I got the same feeling of, what? He hold the punch, but then a second later, I was like, what? He got stabbed? So it's like the strength and the speed and everything was such a succession of events that happened so fast you literally didn't have time to digest and understand what's going on. This was definitely one of, if not the most intense moment in the entire Marvel Spider-Man franchise. And it was also a huge surprise because I never expected Kraven to be able to do that. Of course I saw him killing Scorpion early and know that he also killed Shocker and Vulture, so I knew that he was a threat, he was a menace. But still, what he did here was on another level. But this moment just keeps getting better and more interesting because after he stabs Spider-Man, Agent Venom goes after Kraven and starts fighting him. He's able to get the upper hand and take down Kraven long enough for him to go and check out on Peter. In that moment, the suit goes to Peter and he takes down all the hunters as if they were nothing. By fighting against Agent Venom earlier and seeing what Symbiote Spider-Man did to all those hunters, Kraven realizes that that black creature is going to be his last hunt. Which also makes the perfect connection between the main villain Kraven and the main villain Venom / the symbiote. From this point on, the game changes a little because now we know that Kraven found his last hunt. He's still a threat to others. We see him trying to hunt Lizard, which he brought back. He puts Miles to fight against Mr. Negative in a kill or be killed match. And after Miles successfully saves Mr. Negative, he fights Miles himself. But his main focus is now Symbiote Spider-Man. And then we get to another huge role that Kraven has in the story, which is to bring out the dark side inside of Symbiote Spider-Man. Before continuing, I just want to remind you to leave me a thumbs up to support my work in case you're enjoying this video, and also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to receive more content like this. It already starts in that epic scene that we got in the church where Spider-Man is just looking for the serum to cure Lizard. Kraven attacks him, and during their fight he discovers that high frequency sounds is a weakness to Symbiote Spider-Man. And you can see that he keeps hitting on that bell because he wants Spider-Man to let go and unleash all of his power, unleash all of his anger. But he managed to piss off and get the dark side of symbiote Spider-Man in many indirect ways as well. He sent his hunters after Emily May Foundation, destroying the entire place that he and Harry worked on. He was the one responsible for bringing Lizard back, so Spider-Man having to go after Lizard is Kraven's fault. Not to mention that because he wanted to hunt Lizard, Spider-Man had to go after him faster, otherwise Lizard could be killed. And of course, he also managed to capture Miles, forcing Spider-Man to go out there and save him. You can see him getting angrier as these events happen, but Kraven is able to piss off Spider-Man the most when he shows that he's got Miles. Spider-Man starts fighting Kraven, but even then he noticed that Peter is able to hold back some of its anger and power, and Kraven does everything that he can in order to unleash all his rage. Tried trapping him in unbreakable material, captured Miles, he was fighting him. He was saying, you gotta kill me or I'll kill you. He used the bells again because he wanted to use the weakness of the sound that really gets the symbiote angered. And closer to the end of the fight, he was almost getting what he wanted. Spider-Man grabbed a hold of him and was strangling him, and he kept provoking Spider-Man to keep doing it harder until Spider-Man killed him. Miles managed to intervene and stop that from happening, but Kraven was almost being successful in his goal of unleashing all the darkness inside of symbiote Spider-Man. But even though he doesn't get what he wants with Spider-Man, we can see later that everything he did to enrage symbiote Spider-Man, which is the combination of the symbiote and Spider-Man, paid off when he fought against Venom. We can see that the symbiote is quite pissed off at Kraven for what he's done to it when it was modded with Spider-Man. And Harry also had resentment towards Kraven because he hurt his friends and because he was also the reason he got separated from the symbiote in the first place. So in the end, Kraven succeeds in finding someone who is finally able to defeat him and who has what it takes to kill him, getting his closure in that epic cutscene where Venom bites his head off. So again, quick review of Kraven in the story. Adds weight to the game when we found out that he's actually kidnapping the villains and other superpower people because he wants to hunt them down and kill them in a kill or be killed fight, as seen in that epic cutscene with Scorpion. Almost kills Spider-Man with one single strike, showing just how powerful and scary he actually is. Brings out the darkest side of Spider-Man while he's wearing the black suit, which was so cool to see. Also the one who brings out the darkest side on Miles by forcing him to get in contact with Mr. Negative, the man responsible for killing his father. And last but not least, dies epically in a fight against Venom, forcing Harry to kill for the first time as Venom. Everything about Kraven in the story makes sense and is just amazing. If you can find any plot holes or things like that I have missed, please leave it in the comments because honestly I can't see none regarding Kraven. I'd also like to point out that his design was simply flawless. The way he looks, his costumes, his voice acting, it just fits perfectly for the character Insomnia created. And also a huge shout out to the soundtrack of Kraven. Man, that theme is so freaking good. Whenever I heard it while playing, or even in the trailers, I swear I got the goosebumps. That's scary as hell and fits perfectly for the menace that Kraven is in the game. I love that song pops out not only when we see Kraven in his most badass and most fearsome moments, but also when we do the crimes and we see the hunters. After we are done with the hunters, we can hear the soundtrack and man, I just get that goosebumps every time. It's so freaking cool. I'm never gonna get over the theme. And it's also because of Kraven that we got the hunters. They're such cool enemies to fight because they add so much more than the classic and regular criminals. They are more skilled. You got the ones that use sword, you got the ones that use bow and arrows. Some of them keep on the walls shooting you. It's crazy. Got those bear dudes that are huge and do a ton of damage. It's hard to deal with them too. Not to mention that Kraven guard that Peter tries to serve food for, which carries a shield and a huge weapon as well. I don't even know the name in English. But dude, it's so freaking hard to deal with them. You gotta parry on perfect timing to deal damage. They block everything. They do a ton of damage. Not to mention the robots too. You got those dogs that use the attack where you simply cannot use your abilities anymore because they keep sending that ping. You gotta take them down in order for you to go back and use your abilities. You got those eagle-like creatures that stay in the air. In stealth, they kind of look around to find you. In combat, they keep in the air, so you gotta avoid them and attack them in an air combat. The hunters really added up so much to combat. I'm going to be talking about that in a future video, so stay tuned. If you'd like to support my work, please check out my membership by clicking on the join button below. It would help me out big time and I'd be super thankful. So, what did you think of Kraven? Did you also think that he was just perfect in this game? Leave your thoughts about Kraven in the comments, be respectful to others, and let's be greater together.